Hi, I'm Fred Sokolow, and this is a lesson in soloing strategies for ukulele. And I use the word strategies because when you see somebody playing solos all over the fretboard and just shredding like a maniac, they're not just flying blind. They have a strategy in mind. They're either basing what they're doing on chords or on scales or some combination of the two. And we're going to look at various ways of navigating around and doing solos. I assume that if you're looking at this video, it's because you've learned how to strum some chords and accompany yourself singing or other people singing, and you want to get into the other thing that the uke can do, which is play solos and songs. So let's tune up and get started. Here's your high G, the fourth string, and the third string C. Here's the second string E, and the high first string A. So let's talk about soloing and what soloing is. There's different kinds of solos. So in some solos, you're just playing the melody of the song. Let's take an example. Say we're doing the song Red River Valley, which is, in so many cowboy movies, and usually the guy is playing it on a harmonica around the campfire when they're on the trail, and if he breaks out his photos of his wife and kids back home, then he's going to get trampled in the stampede in the next reel. Anyway, Red River Valley has come from this valley, they say you are going. We will miss your bright eyes and sweet smile, and so on. So if you just played the melody, well, we'll do it in F. That's just playing the melody raw, right? And then there's solos where you embellish the melody. You play it, but you mess around with it. You add some stuff to it. You add some slides or hammer-ons and extra notes. They call it playing an instrument for a reason. You're just being playful with the melody. You could go... stuff like that. That's embellishing a melody. But there's other kinds of solos where you're not playing a melody or embellishing it. You're just going off and making up stuff that fits with the chord progression. If you look on the back of old Western swing albums, it'll say there's a rhythm guitar player and a takeoff guitar player. And that turns out to be the lead guitar player. I guess they call him the takeoff because he just takes off and makes up stuff. It's almost like instant composition. But obviously there's methods behind it as well. So that's an entirely different kind of solo. And there's a third thing where you play the melody and maybe embellish it, but you also play chords at the same time. And all these other styles that I mentioned are mostly appropriate when you have somebody else strumming rhythm for you. But when you do the thing with chords and melody at the same time, you're kind of self-contained. You don't even need that. Chord melody playing where you're doing both. It's almost like a piano or jazz guitar or whatever it is. So those are different styles of soloing. And to start out, we're going to use a very simple technique that I call just going with the chords. You actually play even if you're playing single notes for your solo, you're making the chord shapes with your left hand and just playing the notes of the chord. This is really basic. And it's something that gets people just started who are shy about soloing. A lot of people think they can't play a solo unless they know exactly what they're doing and they've got it all down and they're not going to make any mistakes. But that's impossible. The only way to learn how to solo is to be willing to make lots of mistakes. It's like you have to jump in off the side of the pool or off the diving board into the water, and splash around a bit and screw up before you can learn to swim. And it's the same thing with soloing. So we're going to take a real simple 3-chord song in the key of C and look at what I mean by just following the chords. It's the song Jamaica Farewell, the one that goes round the bay where the nights are gay and the sun shines brightly on the mountain top. I took a trip on a sailing ship. When I reached Jamaica, I I made a stop. And the chorus is the same, it's a different melody, but the same chords. It's just going C to F to G or G7, and then back to C over and over and over again. That's the whole tune. So if you were soloing for that tune, I mean, if somebody else was strumming the chords like I was just doing, you could just randomly play the notes of the chords and make the chord changes at the right time, and you could make it interesting just by rhythmically making it interesting. And like I said, it's random. You can't make a mistake if you're playing the notes. If you're making the chords changes at the right time and playing the notes of the chords, like. So there's a little solo. It's not the most inspired solo you ever heard in your life, but it's getting your feet wet. It's getting started. And you can do that with any kind of a tune. Just randomly pick out notes, and as long as you're making the chord changes at the right time, it's going to sound okay. To get beyond that, there's extra notes that you can add to each chord. Now, there's two ways of thinking about this. And I'm going to show you two different ways to think about it, because I know not everybody thinks the same way.